You've got a chance to explore directional motivation just a little bit, and you know, been to our site, and we've certainly talked about our passion and things behind it. But why did you choose to get involved with directional motivation?
Well, after speaking with you, Russ, it's really interesting. It's almost like parallel worlds. You're doing in the career arena what I'm doing in the immigration law arena, and we approach our jobs the same way, and the subject matter of what we each speak about overlaps. And here's what really got my interest in your organization. Over the years, since 2004, so what are we talking, 8 years, going on 9 years, I speak on college campuses to international students. And I initially just went through all the immigration rules and did not give anything a context. In other words, here are the rules. You figure out why they're significant in a job search. Well, over the years, I've been getting more and more and more questions about the mechanics of finding a job when you also have to deal with immigration rules. And my presentation on campus went from just talking about the rules. Now the rules have become a smaller part of the presentation, and the rules of immigration are used now by the students and by me. The rules are used as tools to work backwards from the rule. You work backwards from the rule to figure out where you want to send your resume. In other words, if you use the different immigration work categories to figure out which ones you qualify for, and then if you know that you qualify for an immigration category, you send your resume to organizations that would be able to get you the work visa you need. So my strategy went from, here are the rules, I'm a lawyer and I know the rules, to career counseling. We're using the rules to help you figure out where to send your resume based on your interests. And then I help the students deal with the question on the application about your immigration status. Are you authorized to work in the United States? That seems like an easy question, but it's vaguely worded and highly subjective regarding the answer depending upon where you are in the timeline of your life. Am I authorized to work in the United States? At a certain point I am, and at a certain point I'm not. Do you mean right now when I'm filling out the application? Well, right now I am. So how do you answer that question? Students lose sleep over that question. And then when you get into the interview as an international student, sometimes the recruiter will ask you, the student from India, for example, or from China, or from France. The recruiter will ask you if the recruiter has the authority under American law. Now remember, he's a United States, he's an American recruiter, and he's asking you, the student from India, to tell him if he can hire you under United States law. Does that make any sense? How do you deal with that in an interview? So my job over the years has become career counseling in the immigration subset. In the subset of workers, that's what so you and I, my career has converged, and it's almost indistinguishable from yours.
It's interesting. And, you know, and to be honest with you, on this side, I don't have the answers. And so when we connected, I thought, wow, this is a very, very good fit, because I don't have the answers. I can get you to the person that does. And on the other hand, I can help the students that are looking for employment as well. And so there's a really a nice fit, I feel, and it sounds like you feel the same way.
Absolutely, we certainly can do this. If a student or a worker, a more mature worker who's been out of school for a while and has a work experience, or a student right out of graduate school or undergraduate school, if they have immigration questions, I have the answers to those. I even have the answers to use the immigration rules to their advantage, or at least so it's not a hindrance in the job search. But what I don't know is where the jobs are. You know that. Sure. So right. using your organization's services, the student or the mature worker could find companies that fit his particular or her particular interests and wants and needs, and I can help with the immigration part. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Cool. You know, one of the things that I've run across, and I've in social settings, that type of thing, in conversations that I've had, is there's a lot of misconceptions from the American public regarding immigration. And I've been, when I told them, or mentioned to in several circles what I was doing as far as implementing this piece to directional motivation, I saw the hair stand up on some people's necks, and they go, "Whoa, you're stealing American jobs," that type of thing. And yet, when I talk to employers, it's really interesting because they're saying, "Wow, we cannot find the talent that we need." And as a recruiter, I can say this, that I have so many job assignments, it's unreal. If I could find the people that fit the qualifications that we're looking for, I could retire, you know? And so there's really a gap. And so I'd like to maybe address this a little bit in terms of from a U.S. citizen's perspective and from an employer's perspective as well, what we're up against here, and are their concerns legitimate?
That's a good question, because you see that in the newspaper a lot, both sides. You'll see they're taking our jobs point of view, and you'll also read things like, without immigration, we won't have innovation. Without immigration, we won't have a younger workforce to support the social security safety net for the retired workers. Without immigration, you won't get entrepreneurs. You won't get new job creation. And without immigration, you won't get the number of patents earned and awarded in America each year. So I would break this question down into two parts: the high-skilled worker and the blue-collar worker. And if you look at the high-skilled worker first, and see, this is the sad part. Most of the things you read in the paper are about people who have crossed the border illegally or have come to America and never went home and stayed here illegally. The illegal aspect of immigration, which gets all the headlines and all the attention, that is a distraction. That is not the problem.
And we're certainly not promoting it. You know, I mean, you and I, as we have this conversation and we offer these services, we're not promoting illegal immigration whatsoever.
No. In fact, we should really, and the president is doing that. President Obama has deported more people in his administration than any other president has ever done. He's closed the border, and he's enforced the immigration laws in a sensible way, and he's deporting the illegal people who pose a threat. If you're a criminal, and if you're here illegally, President Obama will deport you, and he's had record levels of deportation. So what we want to do is encourage people to do it right, to come in legally, stay legally, and work legally. And regarding the two aspects of immigration and our American workforce, there's the blue-collar worker, and sadly, again, the press focuses on the illegal blue-collar worker, the people who work in hotels or the people who work in the agricultural industry. Not to pick on industries, but typically labor-intensive industries. There's 11 million people here illegally, and that's what we read about in the paper. But here's the problem. We have a shortage, like you're finding out, of professional, high-skilled workers. And I'll just state facts, and hopefully it won't sound like I'm trying to make a political statement, because I'm not. These are just facts. Here are the facts. In our graduate schools in America, the sciences, technology, engineering, and math, the high-skilled technical career paths through our undergraduate and graduate programs, we can't find enough American students who have the skills to qualify to enter into these programs. It's turning out that I'm finding, this is just anecdotally, I'm finding that our grade schools and our high schools in America are somehow missing the boat. They're not imparting the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical skill necessary for our American students to progress into the college level, university level environment in the sciences and technology. So what's happening, we have world-class, it's ironic, we have world-class universities, world-class, top-notch, best in the world research facilities, and we don't have the Americans to go study there because of lack of qualifications. And ironically, other countries have a more stringent, a more intensive grade school, high school experience. So all the people who can excel, and this is an alarming trend, it's really scary, it's very scary, that all the people who could excel in our high quality, high tech training grounds, our American colleges and universities, the people who are increasingly able and have the requirements necessary to succeed there are people who've graduated from elementary school and high school overseas. So what's the problem? The problem is we can't fill our own jobs in the high-tech, high-skill, high-wage area with our own American citizens because our primary schools are failing us. And we need the workers from overseas to come here and staff our medical research labs, and to staff our nanotechnology labs, and to staff our medical device laboratories. I work with scientists who are trying to connect artificial limbs for amputees to the nervous system, directly connect the mechanism of a mechanical artificial limb to the nervous system, so that when your brain says, move my thumb, your artificial thumb moves because your brain thinks it needs to move. Can you imagine? And our own people increasingly can't do that. So on the white collar side, the science technology side, there are no jobs being taken. There are empty jobs waiting to be filled.
And how valuable is that given the returning veterans? We have a huge focus on returning veterans and helping them transition into society and into the employment sector. When you think about how many amputees there are coming from those areas, and to have the research available, or to have individuals working on that type of help for them.
Oh, amazing! It's right, and you'll never see a headline: international worker, scientist, patriot helps war veterans who are also heroes and patriots. You don't ever see the connection. I'll give you another example. A young man from overseas has gone to United States college, university, PhD. He has an electrical engineering, computer science background. He acquired all his skills in America, and he took a spot that was open. He didn't take that spot from anyone, and he has like 3G, 4G on your cell phone?
Sure.
Well, the infrastructure, the cell towers, and the I don't know, this is a fun part.
We're going to put ourselves in a corner here. We don't know technology.
I don't know. I'm a product of our elementary school system. I don't know. But this gentleman, he knows, and he knows that IBM and all these other data providers, AT&T, Verizon, the people who make the internet switches, Cisco, he knows that increasingly the amount of data we can send from a telephone, a cell phone, is so huge that it can't get through. I'll be, a very basic explanation, because I really don't understand it, but I understand it enough to get him a green card. The pipe, the information pipe, is increasingly getting smaller, and meaning in relation to the size of the data we send. You press a send button on your cell phone for 4G, and you try to access Google through your phone. That big lump of information is going through an old-fashioned wire or a pipe or the fiber optics, and this gentleman is figuring out how to make the information you send from your phone and from my laptop and from your computer smaller. The information is going to be encoded digitally differently, so it's smaller in size, so the efficiency of the existing internet infrastructure doesn't have to be rebuilt. He's saving our country billions and billions of dollars.
Benefit for everyone. That every user out there. What and what I find too is that so employers are forced to either go without in terms of the technical expertise they need, or they go to the countries themselves, and so they take their R&D effort and go overseas, and very unfortunate. And so I think this is just one area that we can help in that, in bridging that gap. But what do you see the issues that students face when you're trying to make an impact and a difference for them? What are the issues that they face, and just briefly some of the things that probably maybe our listeners don't even think about, that these individuals face in trying to make that transition to the United States?
Well, that's a good question, because there are all sorts of obstacles for an international person trying to enter our workforce, and one that comes to mind also applies to the blue-collar workers also. There are quotas. There are quotas, artificially set numerical limits that limit the number of workers that can enter our workforce every year. They're not based on supply and demand. They're not based on market need. They're not based upon recommendations from industry. They're arbitrarily set. They're arbitrarily set in Washington with, I think, some disconnect to the actual world. And
okay.
I'll give you an example. The blue-collar workers, now these are not students, but for the blue-collar worker, the reason we have 11 million undocumented people here is because we can't find enough workers to do the jobs we don't want to do. In fact, I was watching a television show, and the commentator joked, immigration is not about taking American jobs, because if you think about it, the undocumented workers who are here working in the jobs we don't want, and then the high-skilled workers working in the jobs we can't perform because of our lack of skill, they're essentially filling the extreme ends of our workforce spectrum that we ourselves don't want to do, the farming, the changing changing sheets in the changing
right.
sheets in the hotel. So these numerical limits place a huge burden on the service industry, the agricultural industry, and there's only, are you ready, 66,000 of these blue-collar type visas available each year for the entire United States. Monsanto could use all 66,000 probably in one state, perhaps Arkansas, say. Or on the white-collar side, on the commentary spectrum, the commentator said, okay, the jobs we don't want to do, they're already being filled, and the jobs we can't do, they're already being filled, so we're going to just be left with the jobs we're the jobs in the middle that anyone can do, so we'll do them. And on the upper end of the spectrum, the most popular work visa, the high-skilled work visa, there are 85,000 a year. Period. That's for every new worker that wants to enter our workforce, whether they are a mature worker from another country with work experience, or they are right out of school. If you don't get in line for one of these high-skilled worker visas, the most popular one is called the H-1B. If you don't get in line fast enough, you might not get one. So, for example, in the year we're in right now, they gave away these H-1B quota slots about a year ago. They give the slots away a year before you use them. So for our United States economy in this fiscal year for the government, we gave away all 85,000 high-skilled worker visas in 2 months and 11 days. 2 months and 11 days. And that's for the entire economy, for the entire United States of America, for every international worker. And they were gone in 2 months and 11 days. So that clearly tells me we, like you said, we don't have enough workers to fill the spots we have. We have unfulfilled job openings. We have unfilled job openings, and employers can't get the people they need, and one of the big reasons is this quota. The numerical limits are killing us. And the second thing I would say, the other thing that an international worker will face when trying to enter our workforce is the great majority. If you're interviewing with a big company, they probably know about the H-1B. And if they don't, I can help educate the employer. If you're in an interview and you're with a medium-sized company, the medium-sized company, maybe they're afraid of the H-1B or the other work visa because they've never done it before. Or maybe they did it before, and because it was such a cumbersome process, which I, by the way, make simple as we can make it, we put the burden on us, not on the employer. We want the employer to have a good experience, not a traumatic one. So because our paperwork is so complicated, and because we put up all these requirements and paperwork, evidentiary support for an application for a visa, a lot of employers just don't want to be bothered, or they're afraid. So you're dealing with a student interviewing with an employer who's afraid to sponsor the very candidate they need. It's sad.
But I think employers, because of the crackdown on illegal immigration, that type of thing, raids and things like that hit the papers, and there is a fear out there. When I talk to them, there's two things that come involved, and you might make clarification that way. But that first of all, they're scared of paperwork that's fraudulent, and dealing with the government that way. Second thing is they have an immediate need. They need this guy now, and to wait for the paperwork involved, a lot of them aren't willing to do that. And then by that time, you're talking quotas and all the other different things that come into play too. It's really a vicious circle.
Yeah, the need of the employer sometimes arises after the high-skilled visa category is filled for the upcoming year. In other words, the visa's gone before the man in the chair who's doing the hiring. He's already out of luck when he makes his decision to hire because the visa's been gone.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's sad.
Do you see that anytime that there's money involved, there's capitalization that takes place out there in terms of people capitalizing on that situation from a fraudulent, corrupt, that type of thing. Do you see that in your practice as far as students that you're dealing with that have been exposed to that, have been taken in that process, been promised different things that aren't realistic, but they prey on the emotional side of, we can get you a visa in 3 days or 6 weeks or whatever the case may be? Do you see that?
Yes, it comes in the form of over-promising. Some immigration lawyers or some immigration consultants, they're called notarios, they over-promise. They tell an eager, anxious international worker, oh yes, we can get you a green card, or oh yes, we can get you a work visa, and they will take a fee, and they will file lots and lots of papers, but the fundamentals of the case that they're filing indicate to an informed observer that case is not going to get approved. So either these young, hopeful workers are taken advantage of by people who just take a legal fee or a consulting fee and file cases that have no chance of being approved, but because there's a lot of paperwork going on, the people are excited and they're hopeful, the people meaning the worker, or even worse, I've seen people, and this is horrible, it's really bad, I've seen people pay a quote lawyer or consultant for assistance, and nothing gets filed, nothing gets done, and no service is provided at all. So when you think about that situation, what legal ramifications or remedies do they have in an environment like that where they're not a citizen, they're not anything? They're really at the mercy, in some respects, of these individuals. Oh, that's for sure. When I speak on campus to the international students, I say, when you're in school, there's an entire infrastructure, there's an entire support and counseling system for the international student on campus. It's part of the tuition. When those kids graduate, they are on their own. And I always say this, they're thrown to the wolves. We all say it. Or all the immigration attorneys that I socialize with and that I know professionally, we all have this basic premise that if you're not going to help someone and do it right, don't do it at all. And all the folks that I know agree with me that getting a quick several $1,000 legal fee and ruining someone's entire future is bad karma. It is completely dishonest. It's unethical. It's immoral. And it's just plain wrong. And if we talk to someone, we give them advice for realistic options. And if they present me with job opportunities that I know will not get approved, I don't take their money. I tell them why that's not a good choice and maybe they should keep looking for another job opportunity. And then I work with them to figure out what visa categories would be more flexible in their particular set of circumstances. So I personally never ever take any money at all unless I know I can win the case or I have a very, very good chance of winning the case. And if it's a little iffy, I flat out say it's iffy and let the client decide if they want to take the risk. Life is too short, and I have a child in high school, and I have one in college, and these students, these workers that I see, could be my children. I'm on the wrong side of 50, and everybody's younger than I am, and they all could be my children. And I have to look these people in the eye and tell them, yes, if you trust me, we're going to do the best we can to help you. And a lot of people out there just don't do that. And life is too short, and the money's not that important to mess with someone's entire dream of working in the American economy. It's just not right.
When you think about some of the countries that these students are coming from, you know, we think in terms of our dollars and the value that our dollar will buy and purchase and that type of thing. And you think about some of these economies that they're coming from and how much is involved to scrape together the funds that are necessary to complete this process, and what a sacrifice that family is making back in their home country.
Absolutely. Students from the African continent or students from Asia, when you see a student here, you don't just see one person. You see standing behind them, you know, figuratively, you see standing behind them a mother and a father, 4 grandparents, 2 on each side, and perhaps sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles. Some people say aunts and uncles, who are standing behind this student. They've all worked to put together the amount of money required to send this student to college in the United States of America. And that entire family's future hinges on the success of the student in school and the success of the student in finding a job. And earning enough money to pay American bills, education bills or living expenses, and then send some money back home to replenish the family's funds that have been spent on getting one person here to get access to the American dream. So it's not only that I look into someone's eyes and see my own children, I look into their eyes and I know that there's an entire family standing behind them. And you've hit the exact right observation that this is more than a job. This is bigger than all of us. You help one student, you help one international worker, you're helping a family of 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 people. And that is why I go to work every day.
A legacy, really.
Yeah.
When you look at it.
Yes.
We've talked quite a while here. How can Art, how can they get say a family or an individual is going through this process? How do they get a hold of you? What can they expect? How do they interact with you? You know, kind of the decorum that you'd like to function under. Can you kind of address that a little bit?
Oh, sure. I assume a prospective worker will be working with your organization, and if the prospective worker has immigration questions or is trying to figure out how to use the immigration system to help them get a job, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do to add value. In other words, right off the bat, if you think it would be important for me and Russ or someone from Russ's organization and the prospective worker to talk on the phone, we could all do that. So we're all working toward the same goal. If the worker would just like to ask me some questions, I am available by cell phone, office phone, my home office phone, and by email. I've set up a special email box just for international workers so that I keep the routine office administrative email separate in my office account, and I have all my international workers in a separate Gmail account. So I know where to spend my time. I don't I don't get lost in the email at work.
Sure.
I don't
Would you
charge.
like to share that email at this point?
Oh, sure. Sure. My email address is immigration.art, my first name, Art Serratelli. So immigration.art@gmail.com. Immigration.art@gmail.com. And my cell phone number, I'll just start with that, and I'll just leave it at that for now. My cell phone is 757-235-4624. 757-235-4624, and I don't charge a fee. That's the other thing I don't do. A lot of people, you were mentioning how some folks are taken in. I find it, and this is going to sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. I find it this is going to sound terrible, but I find it morally reprehensible that lawyers will charge a student just to talk on the phone. And I have found this, you talk about the aha moment. I was into central Missouri, okay? I'm in central Missouri. There are only two big cities in Missouri, Kansas City and St. Louis. And I was speaking at a college in the middle, dead set in the middle, on Highway 70. And a student who was a refugee from Rwanda, whose entire village was slaughtered, and he and his sister escaped. He needed immigration advice, and he called lawyers in Kansas City, and he called lawyers in St. Louis. And before they would talk to him, they either told him to get in a car and drive to their office, which is an hour and a half in either direction, or are you ready, provide a credit card number, and then they could talk to him over the phone. And here I am, working pro bono on campus, answering questions for free, and a lawyer in his own state wouldn't talk unless it was like a taxi cab. The lawyer's the taxi cab driver, and they don't open their mouth until the meter starts running. And and that's, in my opinion, that's no way to run a business. I don't like that. So I will talk to your international candidates about anything with either you and them or just them, and I don't charge a legal fee until there's an actual case that I know has a high chance of being approved. I don't charge a legal fee until I'm hired to do something, and I know that that something, filing an application, has a high chance of success. So,
result, something positive. Yep.
Yeah. So a student or an international worker of any kind should never feel intimidated or threatened or apprehensive about contacting me. They can contact me with you or contact me directly. They're not going to get a bill for the phone call. Right. And I'm very approachable. I'm not you could tell from this conversation, I'm not a normal lawyer.
Well, you put up with me, and so that would have to indicate some approachability. So the premise on it's interesting how parallel, like you were mentioning before. Directional Motivation is free. The site is free. It's directionalmotivation.com. You can go out there and make use of the site. You can make use of the services. If you prosper and benefit by it, nobody's going to be happier. And really, listening to you, same concept. Everything takes care of itself. Just do the right thing.
Right, right. You and I have the same approach, the same business model, and the business model is do the right thing and don't worry about the business, and the business will come. The business will come if you are a force for good, if you have the best interests of other human beings at heart, and if you really, really want to make a difference, like you said, leave a legacy of a productive workforce and happy people all over the world. If you really believe in that, the money, the work itself, the recognition. I'm in, like you mentioned, I'm in the best lawyers in America for immigration. All that recognition, all that stuff, that's just icing on the cake. The real thing is to help someone, and the more you help someone, whether you're paid or not, it generates very good will, and it generates a more productive society. America's better off, the families back home are better off, the workers are better off, the employer is better off, and I like that. I like going to sleep every night knowing the world is just a little better because I got up that day.
You can lay your head on the pillow and be very, very comfortable with what you've done. Yep, very good. Well, Art, I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, and I appreciate the fact that of your desire to be a core advisory member to our organization as well. That excited me from our conversation initially, and just the further conversations that we've had just concretes that relationship that much more, and the parallel approach that we take, the desire to help people, just right there. And so I really appreciate the conversation with you today. And our guest again has been Art Serratelli. He's partner and chair, Immigration Law Group with the Vandeventer Black LLP organization out of Norfolk, Virginia. And again, what a pleasure, Art. I really enjoyed it.
It's been my pleasure too. I've really had a nice time. We're on the same page. We approach things the same way, and it's good to find some company out there in the world. It's good to find other people who approach things the way you do. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, very good. I appreciate it, and we'll continue to see if we can make a difference out there. Thank you.